Okay, so this is 522. This is video number 99, and this is multiple choice. I put 3 there because this is the third multiple choice question I've done if we want to go over the work that we did. And as I mentioned many times before, multiple choice is a great way to learn math. I can't talk about other subjects and things like that, but it's a great way to learn math. You can look at things that are false, things that are true, and they're asking here, for example, which is a perfect square trinomial. So if I go back to numbers, you either are or you aren't, and that often helps us in math. For example, 25 is a perfect square, but 26 isn't. We saw the other day that I picked up this number 2401. That happens to be a perfect square. 2400 is not. So the same idea exists in the minds of math people when we're working here, and we look at these choices over here, and we realize that 3 of the choices are not perfect square trinomials, and 1 of them is. And when you are a perfect square trinomial, you represent a square. Okay? So no one asked you what represents a square here, because actually 2 choices do. They're asking you which is a perfect square trinomial. So I'll go from the top to the bottom. I'll eliminate everybody, and I'll erase this here. And you should have the kind of mentality that tells you, yeah, I can do this kind of math. I see what they're getting at. So I go to 1, and I see something that's not right here. The first term is positive and a perfect square, and the last term is positive and is negative and a perfect square, and the middle term is negative. Well, if I think about it, I can't have a negative here and end up with a perfect square. Okay? So you should think about that. There's no way I can manipulate the numbers to make this negative and this negative at the same time. So you can play around with it all you want. Obviously, 4x squared, the perfect square of that is 2x. The perfect square is of here is 3. But if I put a negative here, and I put a positive here to get the negative at the end, the middle term goes away. So there's no combination of positives, and if this is negative and this is negative, of course, this adds up to negative 12x, but this becomes positive 9. So there's no combination of plus and minus that gives me this. So what is this? Maybe we'll talk about it later, but it's certainly not a perfect square trinomial, so I X out A. Okay? Are we doing okay so far? And now we go to B. And I'd like you to look at B. Too bad we weren't in a class participation scheme here, because should be a lot of hands up in the air. What's wrong with B? Well, I'm circling the problem with B. It does not matter that 4 times 2 times 2 is 8, negative, positive, whatever it is. 2 is what? 2 is not a perfect square, and you have to understand that. And it's really important to understand that kind of stuff going into high school, okay? So 2 is not on our special list of numbers. It's not a perfect square. It doesn't work out to be a perfect square trinomial. Advanced math, we might be interested in something like this, maybe factoring it or working on something here. But whatever it is, I can't multiply an A and a B times itself and come up with a square here. Okay, so C. And this is where I really wish I had the class in front of me. Why do I cross out C? 9 is a perfect square. 16 is a perfect square. I easily see how I can break this up. 3A minus 4B. And then 3A plus 4B. And a lot of you are getting this down already, so I can turn it into a square if I wanted. But we overlooked one little tiny thing. Is this a trinomial? No, this is what? A binomial. So this is a perfect square binomial. Very typical of the regions. So here we go, doing the last one here. And we're seeing that I'm going to follow up this problem a little bit and show you how it works in with the homework that I gave you. And so just be a little patient with me here. First, let's show that it's a perfect square trinomial. Square root of this is 4x. Square root of this is 5. The middle term is 4 times 5 times 2, negative 40. So I'm good. And you should be able to do this by now. And you should, furthermore, you should understand how I came up with this. Now, FOIL it all you want, you're going to come up with the same answer that I came up with here. So, this is, and let's talk about it again, this is a square with a side of 4x minus 5. Some number times 4 minus 5. You might not want to pick x equals 1. That should be restricted because then the side of your square would be negative. But if we say that 4x is greater than 5 and we start picking numbers that work, then x is greater or equal to 2 is going to work just fine. But those are just restrictions. We weren't really asked that. We were asked what it looks like. So on your homework, you were asked to factor these guys, and I'm using that word sloppily since I haven't explained it yet, but to find the square that this represents. And now, once I know one side, all the sides are the same, but since I can count out the 4 sides, I just find the perimeter by multiplying 4 because there are 4 sides. And I find out right away that my perimeter here, that we've been talking about, this is the math that we've been doing, is this. And notice the next topic is going to be going from here to here. I'm going to be talking about that very shortly. So there we go. We were able to deduce that the proper answer for this is D, as in dog, and that we showed you why the other 3 choices don't work. And now, since there's a little bit of time left, I'll do another one, okay? And I'll just do another one here. And I'll do it like we're supposed to do the homework, okay? So hold on, you just give me a second, because we got a couple minutes here, and the videos help you learn, hopefully, the multiple choice, because I'm just going to stop talking about that and move on. I hope you understand that, okay? Unless you tell me otherwise that there's something you're really missing here. And now we're going to move on, and we'll give you another example of what I'm talking about. And this one will be a perfect square trinomial. And let's just write it out here. And it really doesn't matter what I write, okay? And let's just do minus 20x plus 25, okay? And we'll actually, let's change this. I don't want to do a whole nother video just because of that. And let's change it and do, let's do 9x, 9a squared plus 16b squared, and then 3 times 4 times 2 plus 24ab. And let's write that out, and let's see what we can get here, and turn it into a square, and then figure out the perimeter, as you were asked to do in those last 2 homeworks. So there it is over there. We have it sort of written out. And the square root of 9a squared is 3a. And the square root of 16b squared is 4b. I put a plus there because of the middle term is positive. And then I go 3 times 4 times 2. I'm sure I got it right. And now I'm going to write all this stuff out formally. Okay? And I go left to right. There's the square. It's 3a plus 4b squared is the area. That's how we deduced all that. and now I read out one side. That means I knew all four sides, and then there we go with the perimeter. That's all you were asked to do on that assignment, and some kids were concerned about that. They said they didn't understand it. You should, and like I said, our next task will be going this way over here. So there's the perimeter of this particular square. This is a perfect square trinomial. If I change any of these numbers except the negative sign here, it's not a perfect square trinomial. Just like if I take 25, which is a perfect square, and subtract 1, we're not a perfect square anymore. Change any of the terms, you change the status of the perfect square trinomial, which again represents the area of this square, and one side and all the other sides are the same. So now you know the perimeter. So we used to go perimeter to area, and now we're going area to perimeter. And that's worth noting for those of you who want to get better in math and move on in high school. So let me cut it off here. I'll send you the video. And again, this is my attempt to make sure that you feel comfortable working with these new guys, these perfect square trinomials.